Right. So welcome back, everyone. So after we've seen, how to define and simulate neurons, neural masses, and external sources, now we're basically are going to combine, uh, you elements of these three types, in different combinations to create circuits. And the outline for this session is essentially we're going to go through two examples from the literature. The first one is from our own lab, developed by Anand here, leading it, and that is a biomimetic model of cortical striatal microassemblies. You've seen the full model in Lilystock on the first day doing category learning. Today you will build a subset of that model, and you will see how the hierarchical structure in NeuroBlox actually works. And the second example is a ping model, and the ping stands for pyramidal interneuron gamma rhythms, right? So that's a network of pyramidal neurons and interneurons interacting with each other and generating gamma rhythms. So first, let's move on to the corticostriatal model. So yeah, as I was saying, this is you've seen the full model, and the full model was based on mechanistic principles about how the brain and behavior should actually incorporate any interrelations across multiple scales, and the multiple scales here are starting from neural receptors, right? Neural activity of individual neurons, and then up to behavior, right? Because this model is able to both take in input from the outside world in the form of images, and also output actions, left-right decisions. And it works across these three scales. And yeah, here you can find also the reference to this model. And this model was, the first big model to be designed entirely within NeuroBlox. You probably have seen this graph before, and this is the graph of the complete model, incorporating both cortical components, two of them, and also subcortical components, multiple different ones, each one serving a different function. A subset of these you will see in the exercises today. So this model has been, there's a lot of biophysical knowledge given into this model, so it has been constrained by biology, both in its parameters and also in its structure, in how the blocks connect with each other. You will see that in the connection rules for cortical blocks. And after it has been built like this, following any constraints that we have from the literature, from biology, it exhibits this bottom-up emergence, where actually it matches observed behavior and brain dynamics, starting from cell-level physiology in the macaque brain. So it's important to know that this model has never been fitted to macaque data, but it can still match data both on the electrophysiological level and also on the behavioral level. So, and the story of the model is essentially moving from synapses to local assemblies of neurons, then brain regions, and to bigger brain circuits. And in fact, you will move across these scales in the first exercise today. So as I was saying, you will build a subset of this model. This subset will include two cortical components, one for the visual cortex and one for the anterior cortex. And you will also add an ascending system component, that's brainstem, modulating the spiking rhythm for the cortex. And also later on, you will add the image stimulus source to this. So you will build the model from the bottom up. So you will start from single neurons, and at the smallest level, we have this superficial cortical layer for lateral inhibition. You can see a schematic of this down here, where we have essentially 4 excitatory neurons and 1 feedback interneuron. And as you can see, all excited neurons connect to the interneuron, and the interneuron connects back to all of them. And this establishes this type of winner-take-all competition, where, as you can see in this stack plot here, this, by the way, is a plot that you can generate entirely within NeuroBlox. You will see how. You can see that the interneuron remains tonically active, right? And some of the excitatory neurons spiked. The initial conditions are randomized here, but only one won, right? Because it spiked as you can see, it's spiked more frequently to begin with. And so this one wins. And these spike timings that were more frequent to begin with enabled this one to keep spiking. And because it connects to the interneuron and the interneuron connects to all other excitatory neurons, then the interneuron shuts down the rest of the excitatory neurons, right? So this is the winner takes all. The last excitatory neuron has clearly won in this case. And you can do also loads of functions by stitching multiple of these assemblies together, and you will see how that works in learning as well. Now, as I was saying, it's only the pyramidal neuron, essentially with the strongest input at a given time, that's allowed to spike, and everything else is being inhibited by this single inhibitor neuron. So, moving one layer up in the hierarchy, we will connect multiple of these, winner-takes-all blocks together, and essentially that constitutes a cortical blocks, right? So in this schematic, you can see it's essentially 6 of these winner-take-all blocks connected together. Again, you will see the connection rule between them. Again, here is a schematic of a stack plot where you can see that it's usually one excitatory neuron winning over the rest across its WTA block, right? So the blue colors are always excitatory neurons, and the red ones are the inhibitor neurons. So keep going up on the hierarchy. We will connect 2 cortical blocks together, right? Each one holding these multiple winner-takes-all circuits. One cortical block will represent visual cortex, and the other one is going to present the anterior cortex, connected one way. So visual connects to anterior. Of course, there's going to be an image stimulus connecting to the visual cortex. And finally, there is the brainstem. This is the ascending system input that actually connects on to both cortices and modulates their activity. And here I'm just showing you some examples of essentially plotting recipes, visualization options that we include in NeuroBlox and that you will use in the circuits day now. And these are particularly useful for assemblies or any collection of units in a circuit. So the stack plot, you've seen this already, right? We're just plotting the voltages of all the inputs that you give to it. So you can provide a single composite block to a stack plot, and it's going to look for all the neurons in that composite block and plot their activity. Or you can provide just a vector of neurons in it, and it's going to plot the activity of its vector. It's one of those neurons. Or you can do like a main field plot, where this is just a population average of all the membrane potentials. And finally, power spectrum, which is, is the average power spectrum across all of the units in the composite block. So, and the second example that we will look at is this network of pyramidal and interneurons that generate gamma rhythms. And this model was designed to capture attention with the assumption that attention is fundamentally rhythmic. So the idea is that we'll have some excitatory neurons that are particularly sensitized to some stimuli, right? And during this interaction between the pyramidal neurons and the interneurons, some of the pyramidal neurons will align the rhythm and actually start this gamma rhythm that will align with some external stimulus coming in, and that is how you essentially pay attention to that stimulus over other stimuli, right? And in the original work, this gamma rhythm is actually generated, it is entrenched inside a beta rhythm. So the beta rhythm essentially drives the gamma. And in the tutorial, you will first generate the gamma rhythm, but if you want to add the beta rhythm as well on top of it, you will see how to do that, basically. You just need to add an external source that is a sinusoidal current in the beta frequency. Right, so essentially, as I was saying, it's the negative feedback, right, from the interneurons to the pyramidal neurons that is, and the spike timings for that they are essential for generating attention. And when I say attention, I mean generating the rhythms, right? And if the peak of the rhythm aligns with the stimulus, that's how you would attend to that stimulus. That's the assumption. And here you can see another example of this happening, right? When we have the excitatory neurons starting well, perfectly synchronized, and through the tonic activity of inhibitory neurons that reciprocally connect to them, you will see that it's only a subset of the excitatory neurons winning, right? And this subset on the bottom here is what will remain synchronized. Okay, a few neurons on top as well, but this cluster will essentially win and stay synchronized, and whatever this cluster is sensitive to, the organism will pay attention to. And of course, this cluster can vary according to timings for the spikes, right? This was a perfectly aligned spike to begin with. So for the second tutorial, we will build this ping model based on the paper from the literature, and this is a schematic for this. You can see two subsets of excitatory neurons and one population of inhibitory neurons with these connections. And the input here is the external input that, to begin with, is constant. But as I was saying, you can change this to some sinusoidal current to add the beta rhythm as well. And yeah, the Thales problems will focus on how this rhythm inhibition is more effective than any type of asynchronous inhibition. And this was my last slide. This is as an extra disclaimer. Please, for the session, first navigate to the introduction page. This is not a notebook. This is only on the website because it's mainly text. So go to circuit models and then introduction. And because there are some important points here, particularly around namespace in NeuroBlox, that is important to know before you start working with circuits. And the long story short is that namespace is something that we were asking you to add to your custom blocks, but we're keeping equal to nothing for now, because if we just use neurons, there's no hierarchical structure beneath that neuron, so you don't need to carry around this namespace that qualifies the name of every variable and of every parameter. But when we have hierarchical blocks, like these cortical blocks will be in both of the examples, then you need to supply the namespace. So in fact, the connections are actually generated appropriately. So we keep track of where each variable is coming from which neuron, and how many terms should be added to that input variable, and to then be able to substitute that input variable into our differential equations. So it's essential to have this namespace, so please read this namespace section before you start. And then you can move on to the corticostriatal model. Okay, granted that these examples, including the challenge problems, they can get a bit lengthy. So don't worry if you haven't finished with both of them. You can do the second one in your own time, or maybe on Friday if you want to. So yeah, if there are no questions, then feel free to start.